Davante Adams is officially a New York Jet in town, practicing with the team. Lots going on in the world of the New York Jets. We'll cover that and more today. Myself, Glenn Naughton, with Chris Schubert and Dylan Terriman. Jet Nation Live. Be sure to log in to JetNation.com, where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. Gentlemen, how are we doing today? Dylan?
Oh, doing all right. I mean, we're getting to see the quarterback that I wanted in the draft, Spencer Rattler, play in a couple minutes. Yeah, Chris is donning the Mets hat, and I'm sure he's got the big screen behind him, rocking the Mets game. Hopefully they pull that one out. So I'm excited, man. I mean, the Jets got Davante Adams. You know me, always optimistic. I'm going to be happy. So 2-4. The vibes coming out of the game were bad, but 2 days later, I'm kind of happy again. So we'll see. Chris, how you doing?
I will tell you this. We've got 2 problems tonight, gentlemen. I changed my internet service today, so hopefully we hold for the entire show. Secondly, Dylan is entirely correct. The screen behind me has Game 4 of the NLCS for the New York Mets, so if I seem distracted, I am. But a lot to discuss for the New York Jets, who, if we're being honest, folks and gentlemen, this is it. They got to start on Sunday. Like, that is when, if they don't win on Sunday, we're going to start having some serious draft conversations here on this show. So buckle up, because this is where they're going to make or break the remainder of their 2024 campaign.
Yeah, and they, actually, let's kick it off, because I think this is an important factor. Going up to Pittsburgh, you're playing the Steelers. You've got Davante Adams, in the huddle with Aaron Rodgers. We're going to talk about what all that means for the whole offense and all that, adding Davante Adams. But going up to Pittsburgh, the expectation was that Justin Fields would be the quarterback. I know on paper, Justin Fields' numbers look pretty good, but I watched that Steelers game last week, and I've watched a little bit of him. He's all over the place. He's throwing those words. Who is he throwing to? A lot of those balls. Like, who was that intended for? Because it wasn't near anybody, but still somehow completing 66%. I don't know if they're doing a bunch of short dump off screen stuff. I'm not sure. I'm not going to pretend I've watched 8 Steelers or 7 Steelers games this year, but from what I have seen, he is all over the map. So I felt really good coming into this game that with his Jet secondary, before I knew DJ Reed was going to be out and Michael Carter was going to be out. So that's obviously a factor. But now it might be, maybe we'll see a little bit of both. Maybe it's gamesmanship from Mike Tomlin, but suggesting maybe it's Russell Wilson. Like I said, maybe we do see both, but if you're going to go up to Pittsburgh and you get to play a quarterback who's not the most accurate quarterback you're going to face, you've got to find a way to win this game if you're supposed to be a defensive team. But what hurts the Jets, of course, Hassan Reddick, which we'll get to, not on the team, essentially. Will McDonald is the only real presence in terms of getting to the quarterback. How do you beat a team in an environment this tough with one pass rusher?
You don't. You don't. You have to find a way to get somebody else involved in the pass rush. You are not going to find success against the Steelers or any team that's on the schedule the rest of the way by relying on one guy. Teams will add additional tight ends. They'll chip with a back. They'll do stuff to eliminate your top pass rusher if you only have one. And it doesn't matter the caliber of the player. Like, I don't think we sit up here and say that Will McDonald's a top 10, top 15, top 20 pass rusher, but he's the best pass rush threat that the Jets have. So you're going to see Darnell Washington in there at the end of the line, and he's going to chip. Pat Fryermuth's going to chip. Najee Harris is going to come out, and they're going to do stuff to throw him off platform, because then it's a question of, all right, well, who else is going to do it? Because I'm still waiting. This is not a shot at him, but I'm still waiting for the Quinn Williams game, right? I'm still waiting for it this year. I'm waiting for Michael Clemens to stop making silly mistakes over the course of a football game. So if that's the best the Jets have to offer, they have to find another way. They have to get creative. Now, the one thing I will say that is a benefit if the Steelers make the decision to start Russell Wilson on Sunday, and there would be 2 benefits, mainly. One, it's his first action with this team, right? He gets traded to Pittsburgh and he works out with the team, but then he has the injury, and the injury goes all throughout training camp and preseason and then doesn't start the rest of the year. So he hasn't had live in-game reps with this team during the regular season. So there's rust and chemistry that he has to put together. So that would be benefit number 1. And benefit 2 is just, weirdly, the Jets have seen a lot of Russell Wilson over the last couple of years, and Ulbrich has had an answer for him. Like, Ulbrich has been able to put Russell Wilson into tough positions. I know new team, new scheme, new coach, but Ulbrich and this defense has had Russell Wilson's number, so you would lean back on your priors and say they've done well against him in recent memory when he's been the bad version of Russell Wilson, so you could rely on that confidence here for the game on Sunday. But that would be the benefit of him starting, because other than that, they don't have the juice up front to be able to constantly pressure him.
Yeah, and Quinnen alluded to it today in his presser. I saw a clip of it from SNY, I believe, taking accountability, saying he hasn't been as disruptive at the line of scrimmage. And this is the game where he needs to get going. I'm in the middle of watching the QB School's breakdown of Justin Fields from last week, because he even started out in the beginning of his video saying he doesn't know exactly why Justin's getting benched from the box score. And then you get into the game a little bit, and it's kind of like Zach Wilson last year a little bit with the Jets, where he was the problem, but there were other problems around him. But like the glaring problem ended up being Zach Wilson. Now, maybe it's not to that total degree with Justin Fields, but he even came out and said he's not playing up to par. But there's a lot of other reasons that he's not playing well, but it definitely does start with him. So I would be surprised if it is Justin Fields, even though schematically you just watched what the Bills did to the Jets. Why wouldn't you put Justin Fields out there? Justin Fields is faster than Josh Allen. He could beat Michael Clemens to the edge. Humble brag, even though it's the worst thing to be correct on. I said it in our group chat during the game, during the commercial. We have 3 timeouts, but a Josh Allen quarterback draw is going to seal it. Like, we all knew it was coming. So, like, why wouldn't you just use Justin Fields in that same role? So, I don't know. Going to Russ now seems weird. You're kind of on a roll at 4-2. So, like, what happens if you lose, if you're the Steelers? And I don't want to make it a Steelers pod, but, like, do you go back to Justin Fields? Do you stick with Russ? It's such a weird spot to be, but I would want to face Russ if I'm the Jets defense. Like you said, we've played them before. We kind of have his number. We know what he's about. Maybe he's a better passer, but I fear the running more so than the passing with this defense as it stands, with our run defense being porous, not being able to contain, always crashing down on edges. So yeah, I would take Russ over Fields, and we'll see what happens.
That's actually a really interesting comparison that you mentioned, because Dylan, in watching that game, the exact thing I said to myself was, this is like Zach when the Jets were winning despite Zach. Now, of course, Fields at 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. Zach, I don't think could do that in practice, or at least couldn't with the Jets. But I partly didn't say that or make that comparison because you and I had so much back and forth about Fields versus Wilson. And I was like, well, I'm not going to make that comparison because Dylan's going to think I'm taking a shot. Like, though he's playing better, even though he's playing better than Zach, and then you come out and say somebody else said that. I'm like, I'm not crazy, because that's literally what I was thinking as I'm watching that game. I'm watching all these passes sail over his receivers' heads by 4 or 5 yards, and I'm thinking, this is
turning down open throws. Yep.
Yeah, winning despite him. But again, I think what changes this for me, because I would have been happy with the idea of Fields if you had DJ Reed and Michael Carter, because I feel like they can lock down well enough that you can then let Sherwood and Quincy, let them key in and spy on Justin Fields, and they have the athleticism to contain him a little bit. But now not being as comfortable with the pass defense, even though, we like Echols and Isaiah Oliver did a nice job. I'm not saying they're not good. They're just not on that level of Reed and Carter. So that obviously hurts a little bit. But I do worry about Fields' athleticism. To me, the worst case scenario is that they deploy both, and that you bring Fields in when you want him to be able to move the pocket or make a play with his legs. And listen, I get we've had success, or I get the Jets have had success against Russell Wilson, but that was with Bryce Huff when he was a factor. That was when Quinnen Williams was playing at a much higher level. And you mentioned it, Chris. I was going to bring it up at some point during the show, and Dylan, you mentioned him taking accountability, which I did like. But this is concerning at this point. I mean, Quinnen Williams, I get the whole double team thing, but you got to beat those sometimes if you're making the money he's making, with the expectations being what they are.
Yeah, I think according to PFF too, he had his highest amount of pressures this past week.
Yeah, he had 5.
Yeah, 5, right? That was his season high. He ties his season high from week 3 against New England. So yeah, you got to get this guy going. He had a sack as well with the 5 pressures, but I don't know. 67% of the snaps.
Blitz a little bit. So some of these double teams you see become one-on-ones if you blitz up the middle and free him up a little.
And I wanted to bring that up because I didn't get a chance to go back and look at the All-22. I think it came out today even. It came out a little late on NFL Plus, but it looked like Ulbrich was doing a lot more man, a lot more not like cover 0, but cover 1 or cover 0 looks pre-snap. And I thought that was a huge difference from what the Jets did under Robert Saleh, which was more, zone based and, kind of not a static look, but they're just going to put their guys out there. Ulbrich had guys moving around a little bit more. So I don't know if that was a game plan specific thing or if that's what he wants to implement with this defense moving forward. But I don't know. I kind of liked it if you can just get more blitzing going with either, I've been saying it with Quincy, but you got to get somebody off the edge, maybe like a slot corner if you want to blitz Oliver. You got to get creative a little bit, I think, to help get the defensive line going, because right now, if it's going through them, it's not going at all because they're really not generating much other than Will McDonald.
Well, and unfortunately, we're not at a time right now where we can accept excuses for this group underperforming. You got to figure it out. You have to put production on the board because the season's at stake over the next couple of weeks. I mean, this team has to get to 9 or 10 wins if they're going to make the playoffs. So that means they have to win 7 or 8 of their games the rest of the way. So I don't want to hear that they don't have the guys. I don't want to hear that this person's hurt or they didn't acquire this guy in the offseason. This group just has to get it done. This team's supposed to be playoff caliber. They have to find a playoff caliber effort, and they just have not done that so far this season. The one that you would point to would maybe be the Patriot game, but you look at the quality of the opponent. They have not had that playoff caliber effort yet so far, and we can talk about all the reasons why it hasn't been there. Unfortunately, those just don't matter right now. If this team's going to go where people want it to go, people think it could go, where everybody in that building thinks it's going to go, they've just got to figure out a way. Jeff Ulbrich has to scheme a way for them to get pressure, and hopefully they're able to do it on Sunday because their excuses just aren't going to work this year. You might have been able to get away with it last year or in 2022, but there are no excuses. No. If this team fails, it is going to be an unmitigated disaster.
Yeah, and I don't want to say it will be used as an excuse, but you mentioned the injuries. And we've been saying for a long time that you caught lightning in a bottle twice with this defense playing at such a high level, not suffering any injuries. So now this year you've suffered injuries to a lot of starters too. CJ Mosley's missed time. Chuck Clark's now on IR. DJ Reed is going to be out. Michael Carter's going to be out again. So you're missing a lot of starters. Obviously, Jermaine Johnson out for the season. Yeah, exactly. So that's 5 right there. So you can't use that as an excuse when your defense has had this luck, the injury luck, and being so elite. Now you have to have these guys step up. Eccles, Oliver. They just put Jalen Mills up from the practice squad. They just signed another safety in Marquise Belair. So we're going to have to see who steps up. But it was not Ashton Davis, and it sucks being an Ashton Davis fan. But it's just you can't have any excuses at this point. The offense was going pretty well against Buffalo. They had, I think, 9 drives, and they scored 3 or 4 times with more opportunities to score. Obviously 6 out of 9 drives with the missed kicks, or 7 out of 9 drives, whatever it was. So I don't know. You got to find a balance, but no excuses from either side of the ball going forward at this point.
They had 1 drive in the game on Monday that was 3 plays or fewer. 1.
The Hail Mary.
It was the Hail Mary, and it was a 3-play drive that ended in a touchdown. Every other drive, they picked up at least 1 first down, if not more. So the offense between the 20s did everything it needed to do. It just kind of fell apart in the red zone and fell apart at the most important part of the game in the fourth quarter. So you can't say that the offense has been, or that the offense was the reason why they lost on Monday night. It partially was because of what happened in the fourth quarter, but they
dropped touchdown.
But they showed improvement from where it was the last 2 weeks. And so from that perspective, you can't be too upset.
Yeah. Dano here touches on my biggest concern going into this game, guys. TJ Watt. Yeah. I was watching a preview something today, and my I mentioned my son a bit now because he watches a lot with me. He's trying to learn, and I said that's TJ Watt, and he's probably going to sack Aaron Rodgers 3 times on Sunday. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, you're not slowing this guy down. What the hell do you do about the TJ Watt problem?
I immediately said over in the chat back to him.
Easily, many times over.
And unfortunately, I hope it's not strip sack fumbles over half, maybe sacks. I'll take him over 2.5 probably still. But Buffalo Jet fan, I was listening to one of his live streams earlier this week. I think the one with Matt O'Leary. And he said that even Mike LaFleur in his first or second year with the Jets knew Myles Garrett I think it was the Joe Flacco Cleveland Browns game. He said, every single snap, there was a tight end attached to the offensive tackle up against Myles Garrett. I'm not saying that the Jets are going to do that this Sunday night, but that's probably a good start. Put your best guy, even if it's Conklin, and you take him out of the pass concept or a chip and release. We know Rodgers loves the flat routes. So just have a chip and release with Conklin on the side that TJ Watt is on, and then pray that the other tackle can handle Alex Highsmith one-on-one on the other side, because they're both a problem. And then you got Cam Hayward in the middle, which the interior plays well. But yeah, TJ Watt's, it's a tough one. He's a menace for a reason. And the punch-outs, too. The running backs aren't safe from him either. Those punch-outs that were going viral on Twitter. Yeah, not a guy you want to go up against when your tackles are not playing up to par.
Yeah. Look, TJ Watt's going to be a problem against any team he goes up against, and I would lean towards the over just on default. The Jets will have a plan, right? The Jets will have a response. I think that is the belief that I have in Todd Downing, that he, unlike Nathaniel Hackett, will be able to look at what the opposing defense is trying to do and make those adjustments. Because I will tell you, I don't know if you guys felt this way. It was like I was watching a totally different scheme on Monday. Like it was totally different. And so to me, that gives me confidence that Todd Downing is willing to accept the criticism. He's looking to make the adjustments, and he is looking to attack weaknesses in the opposing defense. And to me, depending on the way you scheme, you can, and I'm going to say a phrase, but let me explain it. You can take TJ Watt out of the game, right? But quick passing game, the way they run the football, you can kind of eliminate his ability to make those impact plays. And then when he does make an impact, it might not come at a place that matters, right? So that's the way you have to manage the football game. So look, again, it's a lot of faith to put in Todd Downing after just one game, seeing him call plays. But I do have a different belief in this coaching staff under the guise of Todd Downing than I did with Hackett.
Yeah, and real quick, Glenn, I just the confidence I have in this offense from this week to last week and from last week to the week before, I don't know. Like I feel like there's only just so much more room for improvement. And now you add Davante into that, and that helps with that quick pass game. He's going to be on the same page with Rodgers, where he, even to the side of TJ Watt, if they just get a look that they like and they can just make eye contact, not even say anything, and run that little stop route for 2 yards and just mitigate those little plays, like you said, that TJ Watt can take advantage of and slow him down. It sounds silly to slow somebody down on defense, but that's what you have to do. You have to slow him down, and that's all you can hope for. And like I said, Highsmith's no joke on the other side. They have talent. Their back end can be taken advantage of. So it's also a good time to have all your weapons at your disposal. I don't know. I don't think Mike Williams is going to play. He's been a DMP all week. So it seems like he's probably out the door, played his last snap, couldn't find the red line. So, maybe Malachi Corley is stepping up to that, game day active. Maybe it's just Xavier Gibson. It's got to be somebody, but I think it's going to come down to, like you said, just mitigating and slowing him down first and foremost.
Yeah, and the Williams comment brings me back to what I said earlier, right? Stuff that you just can't predict the season, and you get like a veteran player making that kind of mistake. You know what I mean? And even the week before, I felt like, even from my vantage point, I didn't have a great view from where I was sitting against the Vikings, but my first thought was, how does, about Mike Williams on that interception, I thought, how do you get out-muscled there? Like, he literally just kind of got shoved out of the way and didn't really fight hard enough to get to the ball. Even if you get an OPI, like that, just it's stuff that you just can't foresee. Like even the Tyron Smith thing, I was thinking about this today. I often, when people like predict, good or bad, like if you say this guy's going to be good for this reason, this guy's going to be good, whatever. If you get it right, that's fantastic. But I hate when people, like, I'm seeing people now saying, I knew they shouldn't have signed Tyron Smith. I knew this was a bad move. I said this all along. And I'm like, every single person who said don't sign Tyron Smith said it because of injury history. Yes. Not one person on planet Earth was like, that dude sucks and he's washed, don't sign him. Nobody thought that.
Yeah,
and nobody should have thought that. He's already given up more sacks this year than he did last year. It's insane. And it's not fluky stuff. He's just getting smoked off the line. So it's like, it's one of these things where, fine, maybe a guy takes a step back because he's a year older. He's not 39, he's 33 years old. Granted, he's got an injury history, but you kind of anticipate, all right, well, even if he's not the same guy he was last year, he'll be an average tackle. He's one of the worst in the NFL. It's unbelievable. 6 tackles and 19 pressures he's given up. It's unbelievable. Sorry, 6 sacks and 19 pressures.
Real quick. This is completely unrelated to everything we're doing here on the show. Dylan, you're welcome. I will just accept. I will accept the thanks later. Dylan asked me for some.
15-yard penalty. I did the finger gun. Sorry.
Some He asked me for some pre-show baseball betting advice that I was spot on, and I made my my friend
we love it.
A little cash. But yes, he's going to have to donate that cash because we're finding him for the 15 yards for the finger guns. Sorry,
I'll tell you what. I think I told you guys. Man, that Garrett Wilson drop touchdown cost me like $500, man.
Oh, that's bad.
I took Aaron Rodgers to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and I got 30-1 odds on it. And I put like $10-15 on it, so that would have been a nice chunk of change. And he goes for 296 and 2 with a drop touchdown by Garrett Wilson. But look, hey, I can't blame Garrett Wilson. That's my fault. I shouldn't have made the bet, right? Yeah. Got to take accountability.
As far as Tyron Smith, it's like, how do you just drop off so bad? Like, you have to question injury at this point. Like, something is going on. It's more than just like, I don't know, the Keith Carter bug, I guess. Like, it's more than just that. Like, something is wrong. And I know they're miscommunicating when it comes to like run fits and blocking up the run, but the pass pro stuff, you're just getting to your set, and that's not good. And that really makes me nervous. I don't know how much confidence, you have in Fashanu coming in against TJ Watt or Alex Highsmith either. And I'm not to say like you got to be scared when you play your rookie tackle who you picked at 11, who you think is a blue chip player. But at the same time, is this the first time you want to see him back on the field at left tackle, benching a guy for performance issues? I feel like you got to kind of like Greg, you got to give Tyron one more game. And it sounds so weird to say that, but this is where we are. We have older players that eventually there's going to be a cliff, and not saying either of them have hit it, but they're just in a little bit of a slump for sure.
So I have one quick thing I have to add, and then I have to run because apparently my garage door has been left open. So you're just going to have to give me a second. So you can find me in a little bit here. Scott Scoop says, man, I'm scared for Watt with our offensive line. Okay. Morgan Moses is fine. Joe Tippmann has alleviated all the concerns that we've had about him being able to be the center of this team. And he's been a road grader in the running game. You have Elijah Vera Tucker. You have John Simpson, who also good in the run game. So are you're worried about Tyron Smith? Like, I get it. He's been struggling, but if it's bad, the Jets have the answer on the roster. Like, they'll just put Olu in the game. And then if that doesn't work, at some point you just have to throw up your hands and say, all right, they just didn't get it right. Like, we just got to move on. Like, you can't say the Jets didn't try to fix this. The Jets have put everything in front of being able to try to put together a good offensive line. If it doesn't work out, like, it's not for a lack of trying. They have a good group. They just need to gel a little bit more. Okay, I need to make sure that I'm not getting robbed. I'll be right back.
You're good. And back to your original point, Glenn, the people who are trying to like come back and say that they didn't, they knew all along about Tyron Smith and it was going to flame out with the Jets. Yeah, like you said, it was for injury purposes. The question was always, okay, if you could get Tyron Smith at a Pro Bowl level for 10 to 14 games, do you take him? And that was always the question. It was never about, okay, if Tyron Smith falls off a cliff. No, that was never, because that stuff especially with Tyron Smith, like you said, he's not 39. He's not a Dwayne Brown. Like, Dwayne Brown wasn't always hurt when he was playing bad. Now, like, it wouldn't surprise me if Tyron Smith was a little hurt and it came out that, like, even though he, played all these games, he was still a little banged up while doing so. But I feel like, to Chris's point, they have been fine. Tyron, if he is your worst offensive lineman, to date, that's not a bad offensive line group. Even the 6-man with Olu, and you want to, go a little heavy and use all 6 of them at times instead of a tight end, because we know the problems the tight ends have blocking. Why not throw Olu Fashanu in there to be that 6th guy to block up TJ Watt and just put 2 tackles on him?
Well, that was actually a point I meant to make earlier when we were talking about that. Since the tight ends are such terrible blockers and they don't catch the ball anyway, the thought I had, because again, anybody, I had the thought of Max Mitchell, because Max Mitchell, pretty athletic guy. Like, let him run a damn route, throw him a 3-yard flat, and
Thomas got a route.
What's that? Yeah.
Solomon Thomas got a route.
Hey, don't be disrespectful to fullback Solomon Thomas, please.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, yeah. And by the way, Chris was being robbed. He defeated the assailant in like 30 seconds.
No, so okay, if you
police are on the way. Chris has him hog-tied.
I'll take everybody behind the scenes. I will take everybody behind the scenes here. So I'm in my studio. I'm in my office. I have the Met game on. I'm doing the show with you guys, and I have my headphones on. My phone's on silent. Well, my fiance texted me and said, "Can you please close the garage door?" So I'm thinking, all right. She left, and I have to close the garage door, and I'm like, I can do it when the show is over. But then I realized the two dogs are out in the living room, and they, from time to time, open doors on their own. So if they open the door to the garage, then I've got a bigger problem than just the Mets game and talking with you guys. So I figured, why don't I just shut that door before it becomes a problem?
Proactive approach. Good job.
That's
Good
fair.
job. If only Robert Saleh had that outlook.
I was going to say, if only Todd Downing could take the proactive approach and put a tight end up against TJ Watt.
But what do you guys like? I think we all like the fact we saw more motion. I think execution was just better. Brees Hall said after the game, we didn't run anything different. We ran the same stuff, but we were just more. But some truth to that. But we did see a lot more motion, which a lot of us have been calling for some time now, and we saw it pay some dividends.
Yeah, I think the motion stuff was not necessarily different, just more amplified.
More of it, yeah.
And the run scheme stuff might not have been too different because now they're at the point where they're just finding what works best and using those specific runs. But pass concept wise, I felt like they were doing a couple different things. That seam ball to Brees is something that they've actually done in like 2 or 3 other games this season. They've been working up to it, and he never threw it to the seam route, which was almost always Brees. This time he actually got it to work, but I like the fact that they're doing more crossing routes, running away from their defenders instead of the stick routes and the easy stuff, the flat routes, like those little things like that just were static. Chris and I said the other day, and that was not a static offense that we saw on Monday night. And if we see more of that, I feel like that only helps your chances of being successful on offense.
So there's something that happened on Monday that was very important from an offensive perspective, because I think Todd did some new things. I think there were some different play design stuff to help try to scheme some guys open, but a lot of the base stuff was the same, at least from watching the game. And I haven't done the all 22 deep dive yet, but I think a lot of people view play calling through the idea of playing Madden, where it's like, all right, just call this play and then call this play and then call that play, because everybody in the video game is a robot and they don't feel the energy of a game. When you call a play in the flow of a game matters. The confidence level that a player has at a given point in a game can impact the way they run a route or the way a play is executed. That's what being a good play caller is about. The scheme, the design, understanding your personnel, but also recognizing, what would work really good here in this spot on second and short, because they're expecting me to do this. I'm going to do this because we've been really good at this tonight. That's what being a good play caller is. That was the big criticism of Nathaniel Hackett, is that there was no feel. Right? I can have all the statistics and analytics of the world to tell me what plays we're good at, what plays are high percentage plays. But you have to know when to deploy those high percentage plays or when to deploy the stuff we're confident in. And as the game progresses, other stuff opens up to you because, oh man, Garrett's really just cooking the defensive backs tonight. This play that we haven't used in a little bit, let's throw this one in here because you're feeling the game. And that's what I thought was the biggest difference between Todd Downing calling the plays on Monday and what we have seen so far from Hackett. Not to say he was otherworldly and a top 5 play caller, but it just felt different. It felt like it was a more confidence-based, flow-based, organizational perspective on running the offense. And I have not looked, and I'm going to do it while somebody else talks. I'm going to see where Downing ranked after 1 week of being the play caller.
All right. And in the chat, Jim Everett says Garrett Wilson will get free as teams double team Adams. Jets PPG going to go up 13 to 15 points. This is what I wanted to talk about. Others have discussed it, but I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Adding Davante Adams obviously doesn't just give the Jets a really good player. It's going to give the Jets other good players a lot of room to work with. Garrett Wilson, rather than being double teamed by the other team's top corner and a safety, will now be facing the second corner more often than not. It should open things up for him. This is why, again, I cannot express enough. I can't emphasize enough how cautious my optimism is, right? Cautiously, I'm like angry optimistic. I'm like, they can win some games, but damn it, why did they put themselves in this spot? Now they're, a loss away from kind of being out of this thing. So I'm not off the boat, but I'm not rowing. I'm sitting there with my arms folded, screaming at everybody, wondering how they let themselves get in this position. But by adding Adams, what this will do for Garrett Wilson, this team should absolutely. And here's the thing that bothers me, guys. They added Davante Adams, and the number of people I've seen say, "Oh, can he stop the run? Can he pass block?
Can he block?"
As if those are the only Jets problems. As if the Jets are choking away game by not scoring in the red zone. That's where he makes them much better just by himself. But again, the room is going to open up for other guys to operate. It's fair to say the Jets' run defense is struggling. It's fair to say they're not pass blocking. But their red zone offense is just as big an issue as those other things. And he fixes that. But people want to get mad that one guy doesn't fix every problem. Stop focusing on the fact that he's not a lineman or a D lineman or an O lineman, and focus on the fact that he is going to make the red zone offense, therefore the offense all around, a better offense. They just lost 3 games by a total of 10 points.
By the way, Todd Downing, the number 1 play caller in using easy buttons, which means motion, play action, RPOs, and screens in general, the number 1 play caller. Now, he has the smallest sample size because it's only one game, but he immediately used all of the easy buttons that you have at your disposal, the things that we talk about on this show that allow you to scheme up your offense. And by the way, on that chart that I always reference about play callers, Todd Downing now ranks as the 11th best offensive play caller in the NFL, 1 spot in front of Matt LaFleur. So I'll just leave that out there as we continue on to the next topic.
That's funny. And for those who say Davante doesn't help or they want to, use those things like you were saying, Glenn, the last 2 games, it doesn't come down to these things. But in a nutshell, when you look at the wide receiver position, you have a wrong route, red line issue, miscommunication between Rodgers and Mike Williams. And the week before that, you have 4 drops, including a touchdown and an easy comeback, which the next play was a pick 6 from Allen Lazard. So if you're telling me that Davante Adams doesn't fix those things in the immediate, not even to touch on the things that you talked about with Garrett Wilson, those immediate factors, the Jets could be 4-2, 5-1. I don't want to play this game of we could be this or that with our record because we are what we are at the end of the day. But those are the immediate blemishes. Now you talk about Garrett Wilson. No more man-to-man against this offense. What do? You don't know who to cover. You have to put your guys in zone or some kind of exotic look, or I don't even know what kind of defense you run to cover both these guys adequately, because you can put Garrett in the slot now, and he's just going to cut people up. Apparently the Steelers' nickel corner is a UDFA, not very great, but, not a huge liability. But if you're putting Garrett Wilson on a UDFA, I like those odds, regardless of who Davante is facing on the outside. So it just opens up so many more things. It's going to help Rodgers get his time to throw from the second fastest to the first fastest in the NFL, because that 5-yard cushion, that bumper for Davante Adams is just going to be gold for the Jets. Those 3rd and 5s, unfortunately, it's going to, hurt Brees, in those short run situations, but they don't really do it anyway. We see them at the 1-yard line coming out and empty. Davante Adams changes all those factors for the Jets and just helps them do what they actually want to do more, which is spread you out and throw to their best playmakers.
The addition of Davante Adams does not fix the penalties. It does not fix the undisciplined nature of the football team. It does not fix the offensive line being misaligned at times. And what I mean by that is just not being on the same page and making some silly mistakes. What Davante Adams' presence does do is he forces opposing defenses to make a decision. How are you going to cover Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams? Because you have to make a choice. You can't try to mix it up as the game goes. You got to make a choice. Are you going to play zone, or are you going to try to play man-to-man? And the thing about the New York Jets is they should, in theory, have an answer to whatever decision you make defensively. They have the personnel, they have the quarterback, they have the scheme to be able to adjust to whatever decision you make. So if you want to paint a rose-colored picture of what this could look like, it just forces the defense to make a decision on how they play, and the Jets will adjust, and they will have the advantage. That's what it does. Do the Jets execute? Do the Jets stay disciplined? Do the Jets stop committing stupid penalties? I don't know. Time will tell if they fix those things. The jury's still out. Honestly, the jury has come back with a verdict of guilty. They do this all the time. But that is what the presence of Davante Adams does. He forces the defense to make a decision of how they're going to defend, and the Jets have the answer to whatever that choice is. Oh no. Oh no, it's a fine.
The
It's a fine.
classic
No,
case.
it's a
The
fine.
classic case.
It's a double
So-
fine. You got fined for the celebration, and you've been fined for being mean. It's tough.
I'm undisciplined. I am just like the Jets.
Yes, you just like the New York Jets, undisciplined.
So you obviously, I'm sure, saw Nick Wright say that this isn't a needle mover for the Jets, even though if he went to any other team in the NFL, this is a huge, great pickup. And not on October 1st, he said anybody's getting a really good receiver. That's fine.
Wright's a moron.
Oh, 100%.
Moron.
Somebody said also, and I don't believe it was him, but just like coupling onto that, somebody said, oh, look, you have Garrett Wilson 100 yards, Alan Lazard 100 yards. You bring in Davante Adams and you replace Alan Lazard with Davante Adams, you still have two guys with 100 yards. I said, no, you've replaced Mike Williams.
It's the coverage that Adams
and you replace Mike Williams, who had 3 targets, 0 catches, and an interception when targeted. Those are the things that you're replacing. And not saying you can have 3 100-yard receivers, but if you have 2 100-yard receivers and Alan Lazard minus the Hail Mary has, 60-something, that is what this offense is going to look like. Rodgers, he's not throwing for a lot of yards so far this year, and they love to throw the graphic up that he hasn't thrown for 300 yards in
love it.
Whatever it was.
I love more right now.
Thanks, Garrett Wilson.
It's like Mike Florio is just like on the couch, just like, yes, every time that graphic pops up. And I really think that this game, it could immediately be over 300. And that's not to say it's going to happen every single game, but certain game scripts are going to call for Rodgers throwing the ball to Davante Adams 15 times and throwing to Garrett 11 times. And Conklin might get phased out. Lazard's probably not going to get phased out from a chemistry standpoint. Brees, might get phased out in the run game, but still be a part of the pass game. I think it only just helps the Jets pass more and do more of what they want to do, which is spread you out and like I said, throw it to their playmakers.
Now, we've talked about what they have to do, guys. Scott says here in the chat, Scott Mitchell, who's been writing for JetNation recently, has a piece up on Will McDonald on the front page right now. Check it out. But Scott says we've talked about it. Is it doable? How doable is 8-3 with this remaining schedule? How confident are you that they can do this?
Oh, not at all. I'm not confident at all. Have you watched the first 6 games of the season, Glenn? I mean,
not at all. Davante Adams does nothing.
Because
Glenn, I have, and they've lost 3 games by 10 points, and they just had Davante Adams.
They changed the head coach. They changed the play caller. And for the 3rd straight week, they found themselves in the same spot with Aaron Rodgers having the ball with a chance to win the game in the 4th quarter, and they missed. They whiffed. So, no, I have 0 confidence right now in their ability to turn this around because I guarantee you what's going to happen is we're going to play this. We're going to play this game on Sunday night, and you can just do whatever you want to do on Sunday night. If you want to watch the game for
they're going undefeated, Chris. They're running the table.
If you want to watch the game for all 4 quarters like us because we're a bunch of crazy people, you go right ahead. But you could probably just skip watching the game, tune back in with 8 minutes to go in the 4th quarter because the New York Jets are going to play a close game, and then Aaron Rodgers is going to get the ball with like 3 or 4 minutes left with a chance to take the lead and win the football game. And we'll see if they can figure it out this week because that's what the script is right now.
Counterpoint, Davante Adams helps to make it so that the Steelers have the ball with 3 minutes left, down by 5 points, and they need a touchdown. And the Jets defense comes in clutch and gets us back to 3-4. That is the hopium that we have.
Another Brandon Echols interception, the only corner.
Something's got to give, man. Yeah. No.
Okay. Does Sauce Gardner get an interception this year?
No. Honestly, I thought you were saying this game, so my immediate answer was no. But you said season.
I stand by it.
I'll stand by my previous statement.
Terrible.
Yeah. If you missed,
I thought it was gonna. I thought all the criticism was gonna light a fire under his ass, and he'd come out and get 4 or 5 picks this year. I'm not sure
he wasn't even targeted in Buffalo. So I mean, Josh Allen didn't need to throw the ball anyway to beat us, but. No, I think Chris has a point to not have confidence in them going 8-3 or better than that. Truthfully,
they're 2-4. They
right. I know. I 100% get it.
They fired their head coach. You want me to have confidence, Glenn? I'm not yelling at you.
And I said they were going to go 13.
I know.
You want me to? I
said they were going to go 13-4 this year. It's still within reach.
And that's the hope.
Mathematically possible.
Is I even said it. I was like. The tired and wired. I said tired 2-4. The season's over. Put a fork in them. Mock draft season. Wired 2-4. You get 7-4 at the bye. You're right back in this thing. And no, you got to take it one day at a time. It's like the Jets find themselves in these amazing situations where it's October 17th. They have a game on Sunday night. It's the start of their season and it's the end of their season, all within a 3-hour period. So we'll be talking on this podcast in one of two tones next week. Cam Ward for 55 minutes straight, or this team is not the team you want to play come January when they're rolling and they're the 7th seed and you're the 2 seed and they come into your house with their run game and their defense and all the hopium stuff that I keep trying to pump into the Twitter atmosphere, especially. So it's going to be one of two things next time we meet on this podcast, whatever day it is.
Can you put Scott's latest? And Scott, I love you. You just followed me on Twitter. I appreciate it. We're colleagues now here at JetNation. I don't want to do this. I don't want to start off on
no.
But the Broncos' loss is going to be the worst of the season, I think, by far. The last 3 losses are all the same. They're all the same. You brought Aaron Rodgers here to win these games. You went 0 for 3. You did everything you could.
But only one of them was a rookie quarterback at home.
I think they did everything wrong against Minnesota, and they still had a chance to win the game, and they didn't do it. They played their best game of the season on offense against the Bills, and they still couldn't do it. So, no, they're all the same. They might have looked different because
they're all bad.
You lost to a Denver team that had a rookie quarterback. I get it. But you played your worst. You played potentially the worst game you've played all year in the first half against Minnesota, and you still had a chance and you blew it. So you were invited back into the game, and you said, "Nah, we're good. No thanks." And then against the Bills, you have an opportunity to play for first place. You fire your head coach, you change your play caller, all the noises about how your season's going down the tubes, and you play the Buffalo Bills on Monday night with a chance to go to first place, and you play almost flawlessly on offense, and your kicker misses 2 field goals, who's supposed to be automatic, and despite that, you hold them to 3 points in the second half, you get the ball with a chance to win, and you throw another interception late. No, I'm sorry, the game on Monday is the worst loss of the season, because they should have absolutely not even been in that situation, and once they got into the situation, they should win the football game. Aaron Rodgers is here to win those games. The fact that you already had done it 2 times going into Monday night was a disgrace, and that you did it again is an absolute failure. So no, the worst loss of the year is the one that we just went through.
I don't know how you add to that.
I'm sorry. Scott, I apologize. I was angry.
They're all bad. Any loss is bad.
Still lost.
The Jets have a +5 point differential on the season, which is just amazing for a 2-4 team. And I just want to say this. The people on the internet and on TV doing the sports talk, the Bengals just won to get to 2-4, and they saved their season, guys.
Yeah, everybody's going, the Bengals are alive again. They're 2-4.
The Jets went from 2-1. They went from 2-1 to 2-4, sure, yes. But now all of a sudden it's like stick a fork in them, we're done. Yes, mathematically we're not going to be done, and we're probably, we still have a chance even if we are 2-5 next week. It's just the narrative that we talk about, or they talk about with the Jets, is always going to be very different than any other team in the league.
I apologize, Scott. I apologize.
No need to apologize.
No, Scott deserves.
We should. I was thinking the other day. I'm like, we don't yell enough. We should yell. We try to
don't you worry. I'll start. They start losing more games. I'll start yelling. Don't you worry.
Listen, this is. I don't. If they don't find a way to win the next couple games, man, it's. There's going
to be a lot of yelling and viewing on the podcast.
And that's the thing. This is. I think going to Pittsburgh, I think it's the toughest one out of the next sort of 5, 6, 7 games. So if you get through this one with a victory, I think you're in much better shape at 3-4. We'll see what happens from there. Did you guys want to talk at all? I know we said we'll be ramping it up quite a bit. Anybody want to talk about any draft prospects? Has anyone seen anyone lately who jumped out that they like?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe shine the light on a prospect no one's heard of, or talk about a guy that lots of people are talking about?
I would like to do the latter of those two things, Glenn, if it's all right with you.
Go right ahead.
Because he's QB1 in this draft class, and I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me that it's Shadur Sanders. You're not going to convince me it's Carson Beck. You're not going to convince me it's Garrett Nussmeier. You're not going to convince me it's anybody else. The only player with a QB1 caliber skill set, and I'm not talking just arm strength. I'm not talking ball placement. I'm talking ability to understand the game of football and play it at an absolutely top-tier level. The dude has the swagger and confidence of what you want of your quarterback. I have said that he's Kyler Murray with size, and I will stand by it. Cam Ward is the undisputed, unquestioned, no doubt, slam dunk QB1 in this draft class, and whatever team ends up with him is going to hit a massive home run, just like the home run the Cleveland Guardians just hit against the New York Yankees in Game 3 of the ALCS.
Boo. No, Cam Ward, yay. Yankees not finishing that up in the ninth inning. Boo.
Oh,
Cam Ward
was
special.
there some betting? Was there some betting that was there?
No, I don't. No, nothing more than what we discussed. No, Cam Ward is special.
If
you're seeing him. Yep.
Yeah, you see how evasive he can be. Keeps his calm under pressure. That's one thing that's jumped out to me about him this year, Chris, is I feel like he's even evolved there. Like he at times he almost looks too calm. I've seen plays where I'm like, pick up the pace, like where he's jogging out of bounds after a scramble, and he's still got 3-4 yards to go, and he almost slows down to a walk. And I'm like, you're gonna get yourself hurt. Like,
was it the Cal comeback? What game did they just recently play where the dude is like, yeah, it was the Cal comeback.
I think so. Yeah.
They had no reason to even be in that game. They were down 25 points, and he's leading them on the drive to take the lead. And it's like he's playing football in the backyard with some friends. It's just a nice Sunday afternoon. They just got done watching the 1 p.m. starts, and he's just hanging out with buddies, and he's just casually leading them down the field. Like, it's just like it's not a problem. I'm like, are you kidding me? In this moment, the season's on the line. They're undefeated. They're number 8 in the country. Like, their entire year is on the line in this game if they lose to Cal. And he just is calm, cool, collected, just casually marches them down the field. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's Cam Ward's a guy, we've been talking about him for a couple of years now. As I said, became a big fan when I was watching Dan Henley. And I'm like, oh, this quarterback's worth watching too. And Cam Ward was just protected the ball, was able to run, make throws on the run. As I said, very poised, protect the football. And he's been everything and more that I hope this year at Miami. Antoine Staley of the Daily News, another guy. He and I have spent a fair bit of time talking about Ward this offseason, and he's been phenomenal.
I was going to say, I don't have like scouting notes or anything to bring to the table about Cam Ward other than good football player. But the one thing I keep seeing, and they alluded to it on the broadcast when I was watching the game, I think it was maybe the Virginia Tech game, is how he responds after making a mistake. And Chris said his understanding of the game of football, you do that, and then you make up for your mistakes on the next drive or on the next, the drive after, and you're able to, learn from all those mistakes. Yeah, give me QB1 Cam Ward. And I mean, obviously he's been on our radar, and it's kind of cool to see the progression of him from like Incarnate Ward to Washington State now to Miami and into like a really big ACC program. It's almost like, Chris would love this, the college football 25 road to glory path where you got to start at Kennesaw State and then work your way up. And that's basically what he's doing. And now he's quarterback 1 potentially, on most people's boards or, at least in all 3 of our opinions. And he's just a special player. And that's all it comes down to. The Jets aren't going to get him, and that's okay. But the team that does get him is going to be, feeling good about their pick for years to come.
Guys, it could very easily be the team that the Jets share a building with. Like, it could very easily be them.
It could also be the Dolphins if things keep going sour.
It could also be the Dolphins, which would be a problem. Could you imagine?
Go from Miami to Miami?
Right. Could you imagine for my personal brand, because you guys know how much I love Drake May, to then have to watch Drake May and Cam Ward 2 times a year for the next decade plus? It's brutal. I would lose my mind. Josh Allen 2 times a year. Josh Allen 2 times a year. Drake May 2 times a year. Cam Ward. I would not be a fun time.
You don't like Jordan Travis up against those quarterbacks?
No, I don't. Dylan, no, I don't.
No fun. I want to talk about a guy who not enough people are talking about in the draft community.
Hold on, Glenn. Hold on. Dylan,
what?
Over under it being a Power 5 program or this being a D2 player?
Under.
Okay.
Bowling Green tight end.
You just knew.
There it
you
is.
Knew it was. You knew it was a small school. You just knew it wasn't like he was watching Georgia. No, I thought it was going to be like.
No, he's not watching Grant Delp film. He's watching this Bowling Green tight end we're going to learn about.
That was so obvious. That was the most obvious thing of all time.
But here's what I like most about him. Or what really jumped out at me the first 2 games I watched. His numbers at Bowling Green are off the charts, insane. He's actually the top. I believe he leads all tight ends in the country with over 700 yards. But you think, all right, Bowling Green, who's he playing against? Who's he doing it against? Nobody really cares if he's doing it against William and Mary and whoever. So I take a look, and his first 2 games of the year, Harold Fannin, Jr., tight end from Bowling Green, First 2 games of the year, Bowling Green takes on Penn State and Texas A&M. So here's his stat lines against these 2 teams. Against Penn State, 11 catches for 137 and a touchdown. Then he goes out against Texas A&M, goes 8 catches for 145 and a touchdown. Then Old Dominion, he smokes them 12 for 193 and a couple of scores. Then they play Akron, and he goes 9 for 135. And finally, Northern Illinois finds the recipe and shuts them down at 4 for 25. Big dude. They line him up all over the place. Actually saw him have they used him on an end around where he ran a touchdown around the left end. But you see him line up in the slot a lot. He does line up out wide. He lines up in line. That's the one aspect I'm trying to get caddy. I'm hoping somebody gets him all 22. I want to see his blocking. His PFF blocking grades are fantastic. In fact, when I tweeted out a highlight of him, Bowling Green Football's account responded to it and said, here are his blocking numbers per PFF, which I said, great, I get it. But I want to see the guy. I want to see a little bit of him. I want to see some all 22 with the right angle and see how he looks. But Harold Fenton Jr., not a bad player. And he actually, that's one thing I was going to mention, Dylan. I saw your face there. He does that after every single catch.
I was going to say, you see this?
I'm like, dude,
I'm glad I went full screen.
it jumped out at me, and then I noticed it like every single catch he's doing this. I'm like, no, he's gotta. That's one thing. That's one part of his game he's got to clean up is the gunfire.
This is our punishment for the Jets not taking Brock Bowers. Is that Glenn every week is going to talk about another?
I was
tight
just
going to
say, you don't draft Brock Bowers.
Versatile tight end.
This guy.
A versatile tight end. Yeah.
This is what we get. The Jets didn't select Brock Bowers, so Glenn is going to punish us every week by having an obscure mid-major tight end that he's just going to break down.
You know, I might have to do that now. That might be my objective.
That's got to be his bit. Yeah. That's hilarious. No, that's great. I mean, I don't have like a specific prospect to bring to the table other than the running back from Boise State, Ashton Jeanty.
He's good.
He's good. Only because the way he stands in the backfield. He just stands there like he's like a serial killer in a murder movie in like the shadows. And you can't get a read on the guy. And then he just runs right through your whole entire program and it doesn't matter. He had 1,300 yards and 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns last year on 220 carries. And this year on 100 less carries, he has 1,250 yards and 17 touchdowns. It's like he's a walking touchdown at this point. Obviously, it's probably a player the Jets aren't going to get. Glenn's, leading the table with a guy that the Jets could probably put on their board. But Jeanty, I mean, he's just special. And Boise State, it's just fun to watch. I know a lot of people don't like watching the turf, but he's a special player.
Yeah, this year you see it showing off his contact balance up the middle through traffic, slams into one defender, spins off, and finds the end zone against Oregon a couple of weeks ago, I believe. There we go.
Yeah, there he's just standing there. Like, you can't get a read on this guy.
Boom, spin, move. Yeah.
Bowling ball.
And most of the highlights you're going to see of him are these 60, 70, 80-yard runs, and rightfully so. But I like the contact balance there, which he does show off. From the games I've watched, he looks like he's pretty solid in pass pro too. Again, haven't seen a ton of pass pro, but I've seen him pick up a couple of blitzers. So he's far ahead of some of the guys we see in the college game these days.
My last little thing here before we wrap up. Did you guys see the announcer, the Spanish announcer, and his call of the Hail Mary?
Amazing.
Oh, it's good. It's one of those things I saw it and I just kept scrolling.
Glenn, it's very good.
All right. While you guys are talking, I'm gonna pull it up and we'll play it on the show because it's probably the most amazing thing you'll see all week in sports.
There's so much to it that every time I've watched it, I pick up something else. So I'll just tell everybody what my favorite part of it is the play-by-play guy is calling the play and the ball goes incomplete. So he says no. And then his color commentator partner just all of a sudden out of nowhere, and you'll hear it in the clip, just goes touchdown, just the way I did it. Like, it's just the most casual, not as a broadcaster, just goes, oh, touchdown. And then it's amazing. It's incredible. I hope Dylan is able to pull it up so that we're able to hear it for those of you who haven't. But I have watched it at least probably 10 to 15 times because it's good. It's fantastic.
How are the Mets doing, Chris?
They're not doing well, Glenn. They're not doing well. I am trying to keep it together here behind the scenes, but they are losing 3-1. It is not going well. I am not happy.
All right, I found the clip. You guys are going to have to let me know if you can hear the audio once I share my screen.
Okay, this is always fun little.
Doing this on the fly.
Yeah, always fun when we do it on the fly.
Podcast 101. Yep. Don't do this stuff live, guys.
I used to have 2 co-hosts. I told we're never doing anything on the fly.
All right, let me know if you guys can hear this.
Yes.
Y Rodgers con mucho tiempo para tirar, para darse un café con leche. Ahora lanza bombazo hacia zona de anotaciones. Balón para cualquiera. Balón para quién. Sí, no, sí, no, sí, no, señor. Touchdown. Sí, señor. Sí, 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 señor. Touchdown, Nueva York. Touchdown, Alan Lazard. Un paso de 52 yardas que pasa por las manos de todos y al final Alan Lazard lo asegura. El milagro sucede con 0 segundos.
It's so good because
you know what that felt like? That felt like when a little kid notices something and points it out to an adult.
Right.
Like,
he's just sitting there and he's going through the call and he goes, touchdown. Like,
and the fact that he points to it, that made it even better. Like,
the transition from no to yes is just
it's
every time again, it gets me.
I've watched it like 15, 20 times. It gets better every time I watch it.
But that's how I felt. I'm like, yes, no. Why is the ball at the 5-yard line? But one's like this and one's like this, and it was like Hail Mary all over again. And then they're like, no. Oh,
can we talk about the fact that the guy who leads the NFL in drops had 2 of the most ridiculous catches last week, the Hail Mary, and then the one
in his pocket.
That was the touchdown he dropped the previous week against the Vikings with a defender between him and the ball and him just reaching behind and catching it. 2 ridiculous catches for a guy who has 5,000 drops over the last 2 seasons.
And that gave me another burst of hope with Rodgers even too. It's like, all right, he can still sling that rock. Like he's still good. And I'm like, after Denver and Minnesota, I was a little worried. I'm not gonna lie, the ball placement was shit in London, but he came out, he took accountability, and then he threw, the lights out against Buffalo. So we'll see how it goes. Prediction.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I was gonna say quick predictions. I got to run. I'm gonna say, fuck that.
15 yards, Chris.
Oh no, Glenn!
He got him with the.
I don't think I've ever done that before.
You don't do that. That's Dylan and I's thing. We're the ones that trip up and curse, not you.
I slipped up because I up until this second I hadn't given any thought. Like I just keep thinking they got to win. They got to win.
You cursed and Chris did the finger guns.
I did that on purpose. That was on purpose.
Okay.
I'm gonna say because of the addition of Davante Adams, they find a way. I'm gonna say 21-14 Jets.
All right, I'm going with they're up by 5. The Steelers have the ball with a chance to win, and they don't pull it out. It's 23-18 Jets.
I'm gonna say 24-20 Jets.
I love it.
All right, clean sweep. We'll see how it goes. Have a good one, Jets fans.